Hey everyone. For today's topic, I want to discuss how it appears like there's this modern phenomena where men and women are being pitted against each other, where we're basically being incredibly polarized to support our own team and really dislike the other team. And the teams here, of course, being sex. You're either a man or a woman, and that's the team you must choose. And it's ridiculous. It's utterly stupid. And some people may believe this is like some grand conspiracy. I don't believe that's the case. I believe it actually has way more to do with social media algorithms and the fact that these companies creating these algorithms didn't really think about the consequences of the algorithms because of how they tend to show you things that pique your interest or things that catch your attention, even if those things can actually lead to you becoming a worse person over time or becoming incredibly polarized. I mean, we're seeing this with politics, right? Like, if you're right-leaning or left-leaning, the more you use social media and consume content based on your side, you'll get more of that content thrown your way, which will solidify your beliefs in that side being right. Well, the same thing happens with our freaking sexes, with men and women. And now we're getting there's a lot of content out there that kind of trains people to view the other side as being horrible. And even if these examples of horrible people from the other side are like a very small minority of that actual demographic, it's shown to us so much that over time people start to believe that that's actually the average and that most people in that demographic, in this case sex, are that way. But it's not usually true. Okay, it can be true sometimes that, yeah, the average is going to conform to that norm. But the problem many people make is assuming that the average is indicative of everyone within that group, which isn't true. It may be true of, like, on average, I keep saying the word average, but most people you meet within that demographic may appeal to that stereotype. But that doesn't mean that you're never going to encounter outliers, because they're out there as well. I mean, these things are almost always bell curves, right? Like, most people will fall somewhere in the middle, but then there'll be people on either end. And those outliers, there actually are way more of them than most people realize. So it's just a problem because these social media algorithms are constantly shoving crap in people's faces. Like, I would even argue toxic, unhealthy crap, and people just gobble it up and then believe that that's true. For instance, there are a lot of female content creators out there who make content about, like, I don't need no man, men suck, we don't need men. And there are even some that are so freaking, like, entrenched in their polarized views that they even say kill all men because they don't need men to that extent. That, don't even get me started on that. Thankfully, that's a very small minority of women, an incredibly small minority. But again, if the algorithm is constantly showing you their content and it's showing it to men, then men will start believing, holy crap, there are a lot of women out there who want to kill all men. It's not true. It's just the algorithm showing you the BS of a very small minority. And then, of course, on the opposite side, you have men creating content saying all women are the same. There's even, like, acronyms for it and whatnot, like, what is it, AWALT and what, yeah. So it's just, all women are like that. Yeah, it's just stupid. There's a lot of crap out there. And you have these male content creators spewing the exact same stuff as these polarized female content creators, just on the opposite side, because they're concerned with women and those really bad women out there who consistently cheat on their partners, who monkey branch, which is using one man to find a better, or not really using, but more so jumping to the next guy who comes along who's better than their current guy. Not every woman does that. And then, of course, hypergamy, which is rooted in psychology, but yet again, women can work on themselves enough to rise above that. Just like men in our base psychology, we like to sleep around as well. It's called spreading your seed. But men can work on themselves enough to not fall victim to that behavior. So this is what I'm getting at. There's a lot of just unhelpful crap out there in the social media world, and these algorithms just shoved in people's faces to the point that it's creating a pretty big problem nowadays, where you have a decent amount of people on both sides who are becoming really polarized. Because if they watch a few of those videos that show this polarized radical view and they like that content and maybe even comment on it, now the algorithm is going to say, oh, you like content like this, let me show you more of it. And then it creates a polarized person over time. It's basically the algorithm creating these echo chambers that can be incredibly unhealthy, especially when people haven't worked on themselves enough to realize that this is happening to them. It's so unfortunate, and it's making people have ridiculous perspectives. Like, why are we having this pseudo war between men and women? Like, men and women, maybe this isn't the right word for it, but I would argue they need each other, especially when it comes to like the survival of our species. Humanity cannot continue without men and women. We need both of them, right? You need both sides of the equation. So it's ridiculous to see people acting like they can get through life without the opposite sex at all, because they just view them as all being bad and there isn't a single good partner out there for them. At which point I would say that's the problem with you and not all the people out there, because why is none of them good enough for you? Like, you are the issue here then, right? Maybe your expectations, your standards are too high. Maybe you haven't worked on yourself enough. You're buying into all these ridiculous radicalized perspectives and so on and so forth. So what we need more of nowadays is people just understanding that this is a phenomenon that's happening, so they can pay attention to it and know that, hey, if I like a video or a piece of content that is pushing one of these polarized or even radicalized viewpoints, perspectives, that could then lead to me getting shown more of this content by the algorithm, and over time that can change the way I think and view the world. It's something to be cognizant of, because if you aren't aware of it, then it can very likely impact you and control you, and you'd have no idea that it's happening. But beyond recognizing that the algorithm will do this, we should all strive to be more balanced and nuanced with the way we view everything out there, the way we view the world, because things aren't black and white. Like, if you've been following me for a while, you know that I often say that, but it's true. Things are gray. This is another example of this. Not all women are bad, not all men are bad. There are some bad women, there are some bad men. Are they representative of the entire sex? No. You would be ridiculous to assume that and to believe it. It's stupid. It's not true. It is not true at all. And I'm sure even many of the people who have those ridiculous beliefs even know a few good people from the opposite sex. So it's like, why are they telling themselves that all of them are bad? It's dumb. It's creating this stupid pseudo war between the sexes that isn't even real, nor does it need to exist, because it's dumb. Both sides need each other. Men are some of the hardest working people out there, and they often are the reason why cities and other societies are able to continue existing, because men do all the hard labor and dirty work. They're electricians, they're plumbers, they're people who build buildings and that sort of thing. We need men. We also need women to be nurturing, to be caregivers, to take care of children, to be teachers, to be nurses, to be other things like that. I get that I'm being very stereotypical here, but come on guys, let's not be PC about this. We know these stereotypes often exist for a reason, because those trades attract certain sexes. And that's okay. Why are we acting like that's a bad thing? It helps society continue to exist and continue to move on. It's just so dumb that we're even at this point. Like, what the hell, man? These algorithms are going to destroy humanity. I have really come to believe that when people talk about social media almost being like something that could lead to the end times, I used to think that was like a really kind of ridiculous perspective, because it's like super, how do I put it? It's just hyperbolic, or so I used to think. But now I am starting to believe, yeah, social media can definitely ruin humanity. Because if these algorithms show you content that you like and comment on, and you happen to like and comment on really radical, polarizing content, it'll just keep spewing more and more of that at you until eventually you're so brainwashed and you won't even realize it. It's like when you watch the news all the time and the news is brainwashing you, but you don't know any better because it's all you consume. The social media algorithms can do the same freaking thing. And I'd argue they're even worse, because they'll just show you that one perspective, whatever it may be. Whereas the news at least can, depending on the network you're watching, yeah, sure, some are liberal, some are conservative. But at least even with that, they still are, for the most part, hopefully, reporting on facts and things like that. And then they just add their own stupid political spin to it. But at least there's some level of truth in there, just like when they present facts. I don't know. I can't really defend the news either. It sucks. But there you go. There shouldn't be this pseudo war between the sexes because both sides need each other. And all the people out there who believe they can get through life without the opposite sex, I think they're just going to set themselves up for being incredibly lonely and unhappy further down the road, because if you're rejecting the entire opposite sex, guess what you're left with? Your hands and any other tools you may use. Sure, that can like make you satiated for a tiny bit of time, but it's not fulfilling. It's not fulfilling. It really isn't. You're going to marry your hand for the rest of your life, and that's going to be your intimate partner. Have fun. By all means, have fun with that. But I know most people, that's not going to be fulfilling for them. It's not going to make them happy, and it's not going to be meaningful for them. But relationships with someone who you can deeply connect with, that's one of the most meaningful and fulfilling things out there. Those are some of the very things that make life worth living. And people are basically turning away from that just because they're buying into these polarized perspectives that tell them that everyone of the opposite sex is horrible and I need to be afraid of them and run away from them. And it's just dumb. It's stupid as hell. So yeah, you can tell I'm passionate about this because I just wish more people thought logically instead of emotionally, because I mean, there is a time and place for emotions, but really, like, we need to be logical because the social media algorithms are making people become incredibly radicalized over time. And it's just unfortunate to see because so many people are going to fall victim to this and they aren't even aware of how it's impacting them. Like, they think they're thinking freely when they're really not. They're buying into groupthink. They're buying into the perspectives of this group that they like because every time they watch the content of it, it allows them to feel tiny hits of dopamine because it's basically saying they're other people, they're the problem, not you. You're fine. You're 100% perfect as you are. It's them. They're the issue. And them, of course, being men or women, depending on which one of those you are. And yeah, so it's a lot of just attacking and scapegoating the opposite sex instead of telling people to take accountability and responsibility for their own lives. Because if your experiences with the opposite sex are always negative, you're probably the problem. Like, why haven't you worked on yourself enough to spot certain red flags? Or haven't you respected yourself enough to leave people as soon as they start mistreating you? And the list goes on. The more we work on ourselves, the less we blame the external world, because we start realizing just how much influence we have over our own life direction. So why would we bother subscribing to polarized, radicalized perspectives when we realize, hey, we could just work on ourselves and none of this crap will apply to me anymore? Because even if there are some bad women out there and some bad men, I can work on myself enough to spot those people and say, screw you, I'm going to go over here away from you because I'm not going to spend any more of my time and energy around this crowd. You guys suck. I'm going over here. But when people don't work on themselves, they can't spot these people. So then they might as well make that crowd blend in with the entirety of the opposite sex, and that's why they gave up on it. So yeah, it's very unfortunate. I really wish more people could view content that's kind of disseminating this more balanced, nuanced approach to things, or even just more logical, because people really need it. So if you've made it this far in my video, feel free to share it to other people who could be helped by it, because these algorithms really are going to steer humanity in the wrong direction. So we're starting to already see how that's happening. So yeah, it's unfortunate. But anyway, that's pretty much all I wanted to talk about in this video. This video is getting really long, but I hope you found it interesting or maybe even helpful. And definitely share your thoughts on this topic in the comment section below. I'd be very curious to see what you guys have to say. And yeah, I mean, men and women need each other. Let's stop telling ourselves it's not true, because it's utter BS. Like, people who believe in that crap are gonna set themselves up for a very lonely and unhappy future, and the only person they'll have to blame for it is themselves. Not the opposite sex, but them for believing that crap and then living their life according to it. So let's try to help people avoid that problem, because it can be avoided, even though a lot of people are heading in that direction. But if we work together on this, we can help people live better lives. And that's what I aim to do. But anyway, I truly hope you found this helpful, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Arrivederci!